Hey, thanks for joining us. We're the Realennials. I'm Ruby.
I'm Pat.
And today we are joined by our really good friend, Karla Martinez. Thanks for being here, Karla.
Yes, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
I know, we're so excited to have you. Karla is one of my longtime best friends, and we're going to get into some really awesome conversations about how we grew up, Karla's past, her background, and then we're going to go into some other funner topics later on in these segments. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Karla. Where'd you grow up? Garden City, Kansas. And then where'd you go to school? What's going on?
Sure. So I grew up in Garden City, Kansas, like you said, you guys grew up. And all of my memories are from Garden City. Like all of my childhood memories are from Garden City. I was born in Dodge City, but I don't remember any of that. And in Garden City, I grew up in a trailer park. A lot of my schoolmates. So I grew up in one of the trailer parks in Garden City, and it was really interesting. So Garden City, like you guys already know, but maybe not everybody knows, is a majority-minority county, sits in a majority-minority county, which is Finney County, and that means that the majority of the population are minorities. And so when I left Garden City to go to school, to go to college, I was like in culture shock. I went to K-State. I got my undergrad from K-State. Before that I went to Barton County Community College and played soccer. And even in Barton and Great Bend, which also had a Hispanic population, I was in culture shock because it was not like Garden City. And then Manhattan, Kansas was like most definitely not like Garden City, Kansas, not even remotely. I think like in 2011, 2012 maybe, K-State's minority population, like student population, was at 11%. And that's years after I had left. So when I was there, it had to have been in the single digits.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that insane?
That is insane.
I feel like it was in the single digits at KU.
I would agree with that. I had culture shock when I got to Lawrence too, like bad. So I relate with you on that. But I can't imagine what it was like in Manhattan because it was a little more rural like community then. It seemed like Lawrence was.
Yeah, I think my saving grace was that there were a lot of people from Garden City that went to K-State. So my friends from high school I was able to see and like relate to, and then they were able to like immerse themselves in a minority community at K-State, and so that was helpful for me when I got there. But man, like culture shock, sometimes I still have it.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And I think I have it a lot too when I go back to Garden now, because I go back and I mean immediately I'm like, yes, mi gente. But at the same time I'm like, it's different because now we live in a different place that's not, we live Midtown Kansas City, so we see a lot of everything anyways now. But when I go back to Garden City, I'm like still enamored by the fact that we grew up that way.
Yeah. And
then we left and we went to communities that weren't that way, and it's just interesting how we're all, we all noticed that.
Yeah. So when I was home for Christmas, I actually really felt that. My mom made tamales, like traditional Mexican Christmas tamales.
Delicious.
And I brought bottles of like French wine and champagne and Prosecco and a charcuterie board.
Ooh, oh yeah, I saw your Instagram posting about that. Hilarious.
Like those are these other cultural experiences that I know that they would appreciate that they don't get to have, right? And so I brought these and I thought that it would be like really fun and they really enjoy them. But then my little brother was like, he like essentially called me whitewashed.
What?
Yeah, he's like, you're so white. And I was like, no, this is Italian. This is European culture around like family and food. I was like, this is, go back to the motherland,
Yeah, the motherland.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, I guess. But then it got me thinking, like, why do they think I'm whitewashed? Like, why am I the white?
Yeah.
The white sibling or the white one, right? And I started thinking about it, and it's like, I've been so far removed from our culture. Like, I've been so far removed from Garden City. Now I've lived away half my life that it's like, how did I not expect to assimilate myself, right?
Incorporate other cultures
Yes, incorporate other cultures, be open to different things. It was like really interesting. The universe right now is giving me some so I feel like they're microwaves because the vibrations are like so tight. It's been making me like highly sensitive, but it's also been making me like very aware of these things, right? Like these cultural differences that I've been living and adapting to. And
Yeah, you point out an interesting kind of situation where we're a part of a generation of Americans that we're from a specific like Latino culture, but we are removed. I mean, now that we're like grown up and kind of independent, and it's like we're taking part in all these different facets of society, and it's like, okay, is this who I am now? You know, am I different than what I came from? You know, and I think, I don't know, I struggle with that. It's okay to be something new, I think, and develop into something new and still feel proud of where you came from. But I don't think, you know, I feel like we shouldn't have to be tied to that for our whole life.
Yeah, I think that's thoughtful and important to realize, right? Because I do feel some sense of guilt. Like I'm I'm too far removed from my culture, right? So I feel like I do sometimes feel like a sense of guilt, like maybe I should be listening to more Spanish music that isn't Bad Bunny, but he's so hot.
I know.
His music's so hot.
I was gonna say though, I feel like you're pura mexicana though, like 100%. Like when I think about strong Mexican ladies, just like I wrote on your birthday card,
Thank you so
I really do think like you do embody that, and I think it's maybe the newer version. It's like the millennial American like first generation version of it, but I still think it's like. You're deep rooted. I think we both are, honestly. Yeah. Our parents are, you know, straight from Mexico. We grew up in a community that was very nurturing to that. So, you know, it's not like our moms know like the greatest English because they still have people that speak Spanish to them around us. So, you know, when we moved to these bigger cities, it can feel lost that we like lose a little bit of that culture, but I think it's still there. We just got to keep it alive. And I think we do like by hanging out and being around all of these diverse individuals and, you know, even just, you know, throwing on a ranchera every once in a while and singing and then throwing on that Bad Bunny afterwards is still good. When you were at K-State, where did you see the minority or the like ethnic population? Like I know you are in a sorority, right? Or you were in a sorority, and that's probably like where you got a lot of your like experiences with other Latinas, right? When you were there. So where did you see them? Because for me, and I'll just go into this real quick. For me, I worked at the Multicultural Resource Center at KU. So I saw all of the students that were of color that would come in, and that's how I saw them. So my view on the minority culture at KU is a little skewed because I worked and played and hung out where they all hung out, right? So the what you said earlier, that it was probably maybe lower than what we thought, it could be true. But where did you see those pockets of people at K-State? I'm interested in that.
So interestingly, when I first got there, I didn't. I was at Barton and I played soccer at Barton, and when I got to K-State, I spent a lot of time with the people that I had met at Barton, which were not minority people, like at all. I would think I was like the only Spanish-speaking Hispanic woman that lived on campus my first year there.
Whoa.
Yeah, which, man, can I tell you how often I am the only Spanish-speaking Hispanic woman
Tell me about
wherever I'm at? Like,
yeah, samesies.
It gets a little tiring. It gets exhausting to be the only one.
So how did you get connected with the sorority stuff? Like,
Sure.
And you did a fraternity when you were. That's the like one experience that you guys could probably connect. I didn't have that at all. But how did you get into that? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that was amazing. First of all, shout out to Sigma Lambda Gamma.
Sigma Lambda Beta.
Incorporated. My brother. So I'm a Gamma. I am still a Gamma. I'm very much an old head. I was introduced to Sigma Lambda Gamma by my best friend from high school, and still continues to be like one of my best friends. Like like I'm holding my hands to my heart right now because I love her so much. Jessica, then Galindo, now Vanderwide. She got to K-State as a freshman, and she pledged. And I think a couple years after I was at K-State, I was missing it. I finally like hit the point where I was like so far removed from my culture that I was like, man, I need to regroup. And I was also like not on a good trajectory education-wise. I needed to be involved again to get centered, right? Like in high school, that's what I did. I was always involved, and that's what kept me driven. I'm like goal-oriented, so I needed to be involved again. And that's where the sorority came into play. And it was so funny. I was just talking about it yesterday to Matthew, my friend Matthew, and was just like telling him about the process, the involvement on campus, like our pillars, what we stood for, and that was amazing, right? So then I was introduced to the sorority. I became a Gamma, and then I was introduced to the rest of the minority Greek community. And then once you have like a large group of minorities, the ones that aren't Greek then come into play too, right?
Oh, that's true.
I was also involved in Halo for a while. But that's how I then got connected to the minority community at K-State, and it was exactly what I needed because it gave me that push to like finish school. It let me be involved. It made me build these like really lasting relationships. And now I have a connection to this worldwide community with my sorority, right? And then I can meet somebody who's a beta and just be like, hey, I'm a Gamma, and automatically we relate, you know?
Yeah.
I saw Nico's a Sigma, and I'm like, hey, I'm a Gamma. And, like, that was on Instagram. But
Yeah. But you guys like all, I had a KU beanie to wear today, and Nico shut me down. He was like, nah, don't do that, 'cause he went to K-State and you went to K-State. I was going to say
yeah,
you
I would
with
have
it.
been like,
I just thought I was having a good hair day, so it didn't need to happen.
You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you very
Can I ask
much.
you a question regarding that? Because we've been through obviously similar processes. Did you ever feel conflicted about? I did to some extent, but I'll ask you the question and see how you feel about it. Did you ever feel conflicted about like being in a specifically multicultural, ethnic fraternity and doing things like Halo to the exclusion of being in other groups and putting yourself out there in a more diverse way?
Like doing like a traditional fraternity or a traditional sorority over.
Or not necessarily sorority, but like, okay, for me, for example, I would go back and forth. Obviously, I love all those guys that I met and that my network and everything like that. But there would be times where I felt like it was kind of like the familial, like I feel obligated to represent versus like putting myself out there and making, I don't know, white friends or whatever, Caucasian.
No, I actually never really felt conflicted that way because even when I was in the sorority, so there's a thing, like Gammas, we all say that the sorority is a sorority for girls that are like not meant to be in a sorority, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so that's always kind of said that way. But also me, myself, I was very much not the sorority girl, even the multicultural sorority girl. Like, I was so business. I was so focused on school. Like the social aspect of it came second, third, maybe even. Actually, probably fourth after like the community service and the recruitment aspects of it. So I never really felt conflicted or like I should be one certain way. I felt like there was fluidity to branch out and to be diverse. And I actually still had a lot of friends, like some of my most lasting relationships from college, were not even through the sorority at all. We're just people that I met through other groups. One thing that I did feel conflicted about was the process, the education process.
Okay, yeah.
In that I very much appreciate, like, there is something to be said obviously, because this happens, think of the Army, think of any group that anybody wants to be a part of that has some kind of exclusivity. You have to go through a series of tests, of challenges to be accepted, right? And then so that at the end of it, you're like, I did it, right? The tests and challenges that were presented to me are what conflict me, because I feel that the sorority is about empowering people and allowing them to make their own decisions. And the process that is meant to break you down to make you feel grateful for the acceptance into the group does the opposite of that. And that always kind of conflicts. Like, that I don't understand it. I don't understand why it has to be that kind of way.
Interesting.
Ooh, I would agree with that, and I would see that in all like traditional fraternities and sororities too. So that's probably the way they all relate.
Think of the Army, right? Like boot camp. Boot camp is supposed to be
Break you.
The SEALs, the Navy SEAls, right? They're supposed to go through these crazy physical and mental challenges to be part of this. To be part of this like exclusive group. And then at the end of it, you're supposed to come out like almost a complete 180 of what you are through the process, and that just blows my mind. Like, it blows my mind because I don't think that it has to be that way. And
hot takes.
Dude, hot takes. We do really like talking about like systems and how, you know, just rethinking them a little bit or why they are the way they are. We'll get more into this, but we're going to go ahead and take a break. Thank you for tuning in to the Realennials, and we'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to the show. I'm Pat.
I'm Ruby.
And we're still here with Karla. Thank you for joining us.
hi guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's such a pleasure to have you on. So, what brought you to Kansas City and what keeps you here?
All right, Kansas City. Natural progression, right?
Yeah.
Natural progression brought me to Kansas City. So after college, I needed a job, and I wasn't going to go back to Garden City. Like, Garden City was just never my dream.
Me either.
I just thought that, like, people grew up and then moved far away from their families. Like, I just thought that that's what people did. And
Naturally,
so,
right?
Yeah. So I never thought that that was an option for me. And not that it's an option.
You wanted it, yeah.
So, you know, KC is only about a couple hours from Manhattan, Kansas, so it's the next stepping stone. And I graduated into a really poor economy, and I didn't have a specialized degree. I wasn't an accountant or an engineer. I had a marketing degree, which I still love all things marketing. Love marketing from beginning to end. And it was just a time when nobody was hiring marketers. Like, there were too many of us graduating. We didn't have any special skills to offer, and so I just like took a job. I like worked as an executive assistant at UMKC for a while, and I mean, it was a decent job that paid, and then I did another job at UMKC that also paid, and finally I was just like, I have to do something that isn't this. And I was also going through some like major life changes at that time. So one of the reasons I ended up in Kansas City was because I was with somebody, and my partner at the time was coming to Kansas City, and he had the specialized degree, and he had the opportunity for advancement during this time that was very difficult. Anyway, so while I was at UMKC, and was really frustrated with my job that was not stimulating me intellectually.
Yeah.
Like, it was so hard. I could do, this is gonna sound so awful, like, I could do a month's worth of work in 10 hours.
Wow.
Right? So I wouldn't do anything for most of the month, and then 2-3 days before I had to
Get stuff
deliver
done.
my product or the deliverable, I would start working on it. And it was just driving me insane. And, you know, I was like, I didn't have, like, I wasn't finding satisfaction anywhere during this time, and so I had to, like, take it into my own hands and start creating things that were making me happy. And one of them was that I had to leave this relationship that I was in that had been, and actually to this day is probably the most meaningful relationship I've ever been in, besides the one with Roxy,
Yeah.
my dog.
Shout out to Roxy.
Yeah. Seriously, thank you, universe, for her.
Right?
And I was like, okay, what do I have to do? And I was like, I need to focus on myself. So fast forward, I decided to go to grad school to go get an MBA. I then decided to also start applying for jobs in industry. Like, I haven't worked in industry really for a while, but if I could just get my foot in the door, like, I know I'm smart, I know that I can learn things quickly.
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver. I love to problem solve, and I have the skills to be able to learn anything. So I was like, all right, I just have to do it. And I found this job that was an entry level, like barely above entry level position at a market research firm. And I was like, marketing, I told you, I love it. I love everything from beginning to end, right? From the collecting the data points to finding your target segments, to finding what they like, then to selling them the product, then the avenues in which you sell the product, and how you're doing it, how you're representing your brand, you know, everything. I love
How
all
to
of it.
iterate
Is
from
that, what do you do now? Is that your role now?
So I do.
Yeah, let her get to that, man.
Yeah. So now I work in market research, and specifically the company I work for, we do customer experience, customer satisfaction research. And the whole point of it is that the way that you are interacting with your consumer, with your customer, is going to either build loyalty or not. And as a brand,
Watch out, it's your mic.
as a brand, you want loyal customers.
You can turn it towards your face.
You want
Yeah,
it
there
this
you
way?
go.
Okay. You want loyal customers, because your loyal customers come back more often. They tell you, buy more, have bigger tickets, and they recommend you. And word of mouth is the absolute best.
Form of marketing
Yes,
that there is
exactly.
out there.
Exactly. You just need somebody to, like, mention your name, and somebody you trust, right? To mention something, you'll try it out. So that's what I do, is we collect these data points on whatever our clients, whoever we're working on, and let them know how their customers are interacting with their brand, how they're experiencing them. And with that data, we then consult and let them know where they need to focus to turn the experience around, where they have the biggest opportunities. And then along with that, we also help them kind of strategize at the enterprise level, so that they can create this culture of not consumerism, of being consumer centric.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's what I do.
Dude, that's exciting. And just to rewind a little bit, you know, I was around watching Karla when she was, like, going through all of that. Like, she was transitioning here in Kansas City. She had some major life changes that happened, and then she was, you know, making a decision to leave one job and start pursuing an MBA. And, like, I saw her, you know, going to class and working full time, and then going to her classes, and then coming home and just, like, hitting it hard. And you just light up when you talk about marketing. And I'm so happy that you were able to transition from a job that, you know, paid the bills and got you through that part of your life, and then you, like, really, like, guys, when I say she got on it, she made a decision and she went for it. And then she just like followed it. And now she's sitting here talking so passionately about her job. It's like really inspiring to me because there's a lot of people out there that are working that job that maybe isn't mentally stimulating for them, or that is, you know, just something that they feel that they can do well, and they don't, maybe they're scared to move to the next step or move further. But you're an embodiment of, you know, making that decision and then going after it. And then now a few years later, you know, you're still working there. You've got like a really good grasp about what you guys are doing. And we've had these conversations before, so I'm like pulling in some of our personal conversations when we hang out. But it's been really great to watch that. And, you know, I get so excited to hear about like some of the clients that you work with too, because she, you know, she's got, and I don't know if you can talk about those clients at all, but it's exciting work that you have going on right now. And I'm really proud of you, man.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you've accomplished a lot, and
Thanks, guys.
I've been around obviously less than Ruby, but you know, when I'm around, I tune in a little bit, and you're like always getting like promoted and like traveling and doing something cool. What is your experience like in Kansas City as a young professional Latina woman? You know, I would say I would add powerful to that. I mean, you're not powerful in terms of like having power over people, but powerful, at least from my observation, powerful in who you are and your moves and your calculations and the way you move.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Really, very much appreciate that. Because life moves so slowly sometimes that I don't even realize when I have to look back and realize that I've met goals, right? That I've set goals for myself that I've met. Like, it's not like finishing a race, right? Like, life is not like finishing a race where you set a goal and then you see the finish line. It just is like, over. You just like have to ponder on it and be like, oh crap, I can cross off a life goal, you know? So thank you, I really appreciate that. In Kansas City, as a Latina woman, my experience in the professional environment, it leaves me wanting for more diversity.
I agree with that.
I have been, I think, very, very blessed and very fortunate to work in the company that I work with, because I do get to have these really unique experiences. Like, the other morning, I had a surprise call with the CEO of one of my clients where I presented data, and it was like difficult data to present. It was saying, hey, you guys aren't doing that great. And at the end of it, she like thanked us for our partnership and like thanked us for what we do. And so it's like, that's super rewarding that I get to do that. But it also leaves me wanting in that I am the only Spanish-speaking Hispanic woman in my company.
What?
Literally, in my whole company.
Are you the token Latina?
Yeah, and if you look at our careers video, it's like, I'm all over it.
Karla's all up in there.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's because I don't know why. I mean...
Well, also because you're beautiful, so they were like, let's put pretty girls in this video.
Thank you. But I also think it's because I look ethnically ambiguous, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're just like, oh, this fits here for this careers video. So that's what's difficult for me. And I know not all companies are like that, but my industry specifically, I think, lacks representation, not even from Hispanic women, just Hispanics in general. And so that's been tough. But I've also been able to connect myself with like-minded people in the community through different things that I like to do. So like I'm associated with the Nelson Help Plan Muse, which is a party in the summer. I'm a young friend of the arts. I love the gym, so I like do tons of stuff with fitness around here. And that's helped me like meet other people. But I know that there are women like me out there. Like, where are they working? Where are they at? Where can I find them that isn't like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?
Right.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I know there's like the young Latino professionals, but I don't know. Oh, and I also don't do Facebook anymore.
Oh.
I like cut out Facebook.
You're just,
so now
just
I don't know
totally out of the loop completely. No.
I know. I need you guys to have more of an Instagram presence,
I
please.
know, right?
Right.
It's just been It's something that I would like to see change.
Do you think the
We do
lack
too.
of diversity in your company in particular is a detriment to the company?
Yes. I think that any company, especially if you consider a corporate kind of culture,
Yeah.
if you are lacking diversity, you are doing yourself a disservice.
I agree.
If you look at some of the largest, most successful companies, like global companies, so my ideal job is to work a global job, right? Where I'm either working for a global corporation that lets me travel internationally, or I'm living abroad. But if you think of like Ernst & Young, KPMG, Deloitte, Google, Amazon, they all have very, very diverse workforces, and they encourage diversity, and their cultures internally really push diversity because they know that diverse teams bring different mindsets, experiences. Like, if you have 10 people in a room and they all grew up in the same regional area, have the same demographics, the ideas that you're going to produce are limited.
One-sided, 100%.
Or if you had 5 people with completely different demographics in another room, you know? So I think that it is a detriment to my company, and
Well, they're lucky to have you. I'm glad they at least
you.
have you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they need more of you, but they're doing that right.
I know that feeling. I was the only minority at the last job I had, you know, and now, I won't speak on that, but it was a
for the
weird
behind
and
the scenes.
uncomfortable situation, you know, but, so what keeps you here in Kansas City?
That's the question, $1 million question. I've been considering moving to a more metropolitan area, but what's kept me in Kansas City so far are the opportunities that I've had, the opportunities I've had with my job. Like I told you, I'm in this unique position where I get to talk to CEOs. Like, I get to have these strategic conversations and listen to these strategic conversations of people that are running billion-dollar companies, and that's amazing, absolutely amazing.
That's cool.
Listening how they speak, like just listening to them strategize and think at this like larger level instead of the details is incredible. I've gotten to travel. Like, I've literally gotten to travel the world on the company's dime, and that's amazing. So I think my job has kept me in Kansas City. But then also, like, these communities of like-minded people that I've found. And
Our family's kind of, they're nearby-ish.
yeah, they're nearby-ish. You're across the street.
Yeah, I'm across the street. We live right
My
next to each
sister
other.
lives here. And I like Kansas City.
Dude,
Nice.
I like Kansas City too. I'm glad we're all here.
Me too.
And, you know, we're talking about, we do have this conversation a lot about diversity in Kansas City. I guess we talk more like kind of where are creatives of color at. So I don't know. I'd like to continue that conversation with everybody that we talk to, because I would consider you a creative as well. Like, so I don't know. We're trying to connect everybody right now. So all the creatives of color, all of the professionals of color, they are all looking for that place to go that they can all relate on, you know, the professional issues, the creative issues that are going on in our city.
Yeah.
And we're trying to connect them. And so just for our listeners and our audience out there, you know, Karla's a resource, we're a resource. So we're going to continue having those conversations. When we come back, I do want to talk more about travel with you, because Karla's very well traveled, and we like to expand our cultural minds here. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be right back.
We're rolling, right?
Yeah.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in with us, being here with the Realennials. I'm Pat.
I'm Ruby.
And we still have Karla here with us.
Yes, we do. Okay, I have a question for both of you. Karla, I've been very fortunate to like be able to talk to her after her travels, but she's been to some really cool places. So I have a question for both of you. What is the best road trip or vacation you've ever taken? Who was it with? Who was there? Where did you go? And what did you see along the way that made it so great? I want Karla to answer first.
All right.
Let's cap that to the past 3 years, within the past 3 years, unless it's like a monumental childhood experience. Then you
Okay.
can still do that one.
I actually have one very specific trip already in
Ooh,
mind.
cool.
So in October of 2017, I got to travel to China for 10 days by myself. And part of it was for work. So I was there for work, and then I extended my stay and hung out there, and I actually turned 32 while I was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great way to bring it
And
in.
then I came back, and I turned 32 here the next day.
Yeah, I was about to say something about that.
Yeah. I actually flew back the day after my birthday. Then it was my birthday here. But that trip was, for me, the most life-changing because it was so incredible in so many ways. Because I traveled with work, I had these incredible luxuries for a while.
Ooh.
Like, incredible luxuries. Like, I stayed at the Shangri-La in the Pearl District of Shanghai, which is like the modern business district.
Green screen, it'll be back here.
I like got to go up into like the second tallest building in the world. Yeah, it was so incredible. I flew business class,
Ooh.
like
Oh, nice.
18 hours business class. Like, tell me, I'm never gonna have that
I was
experience
gonna
again.
say, I was
Like,
gonna say, tell us about it, please, because I don't.
they like took my coat as soon as I got on. They like took my coat. I was like, oh yeah, here's my JCPenney's jean jacket.
I know. And they're like, oh, here's a warm towel and some lavender oil.
Here's a warm towel and some champagne.
Please use gloves when you handle my jacket.
So, I mean, just to frame it up for you, like, I mean, I had like steak on
Ooh,
like glass.
dang, steak on a plane.
Yeah, I could like lay
I
down
never
flat.
had steak on a plane.
I never had steak on a
Bose
plane
headphones.
either.
It was amazing. So amazing, so amazing. And then also on that trip, I went, I did like personal travel, and my personal travel doesn't afford me those kind of luxuries. So I flew from Shanghai to Xi'an, and Xi'an is where the Terracotta Army is.
Ooh, yeah.
So I had to buy like a flight on a
Oh,
Chinese
okay.
airline, travel on a Chinese airline by myself, like not knowing any Chinese,
Oh
and
my
that was
gosh.
fine. Like Shanghai was fine, but when I got to Xi'an, it was so opposite. Like people spoke English, but it was not like Shanghai where everybody spoke English. And so that was like a little challenging, right? That was challenging and
yeah.
a little uncomfortable. And of course, at the airport, they're like, don't take just a random taxi. Go to the taxi stand. Go to the taxi stand. So of course, I like took a random taxi.
Oh
my
gosh.
goodness.
That was like the first adventure time random taxi.
I was like, I'm gonna die. Like this is how I die. But I ended up at my hotel. It was fine. But the next day, when I like wanted to go to the Terracotta Army and I wanted to get there, I didn't know how to get there. I was like, do people just flag down taxis? And I was like looking to see how people are flagging down taxis. And I was like, then how do I just point at something? How do I know that they're not ripping me off?
Yeah.
You know, I had all these like crazy thoughts. And by that time I had already been in China like 4 or 5 days. And at that point I was, and then I had gone somewhere where I was really uncomfortable and not able to communicate well. And like China broke me. Like China broke me that day. I cried that day, but I cried when I was like finally in the taxi going out to the Terracotta Army. Like that morning I was like, where do I eat? How am I gonna eat? And I just like walked around. I didn't know if places were open or not because it was like 10 a.m. And I was like, is this open or not? And so I went somewhere where somebody was sitting and eating because I knew that they would be open.
Nice.
And I went in there and I was like, I don't even know what anything is. So I just like pointed at something on the wall, and it to this day is like the best thing that I ate while I was in China.
Dang.
That just made me hungry.
Right?
Oh man.
Craft services?
This particular day was so amazing because I made it out there. I cried. I like felt challenged. Somehow managed. Went and learned like this amazing history. Learned this amazing history. Came back to the city and like went to explore more. And I was like, I'm just gonna go by foot. I'm just gonna walk in the direction of of this bell tower in this Muslim district that is like famous in Xi'an. And I just started walking, and along the way, I started having these like very organic cultural experiences. Like I like stopped and got something from somebody at a food cart, and like the interaction was interesting, right?
Oh yeah.
I walked through this park where people were like dancing. They were doing this lottery. Like there were so many people in this park, in People's Park. There were men practicing calligraphy on the ground with like water and like essentially a giant mop. And I just like wandered around and like soaked it all in, and I came around this like group of people that were dancing, and I was like, I can dance this.
Oh, nice.
So what I was like, okay, I want to dance this. Like I want to partake. I was like, how do I make it known without speaking the language that I want to partake? So I just like, and I have this talk with myself all the time, like, be open, make yourself approachable, and making yourself approachable is literally smiling, right? So I just like stood there and smiled, and then like set my purse down. I was like looking around smiling, and finally like an older Chinese guy like came over, and he was like, do you want to dance? And I was like, sure. And I danced with him. And literally did not sit for the next hour, because I would dance 2 songs, somebody else would come take me out for 2 songs, and there were like people recording me.
Oh my goodness.
Like when I like sit down to rest, there'd be like a group of people around me, and they'd all be trying to like converse with me, and we were having these like conversations via hand signals, and then like finally I was like, all right guys, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna go to my next destination.
I got my dance on, and now
then the rest of that just like continued into the whole day, and it was one of the most amazing days of my life, because I can never in my whole life have imagined a day like that I would experience a day like that, and it's just like so incredible. Like you can do anything. Like you as a human can do absolutely anything. Like we've literally evolved where we all like speak these different languages, but we're all human, so we should be able to communicate in one way or another, and you can do that. And I think that people are inherently good, so you shouldn't be afraid when you're out traveling.
Yeah.
Right? Like be open. People are inherently good, and trust your instinct. Like
I love that you're saying that, because whenever I'm gonna travel, and you've probably gotten this too, people like they're kind of concerned. They're like, oh, what are you gonna do by yourself? Like you're going by yourself, or have you looked at the like, make sure that you don't drink the water, make sure this or make sure that. Like everybody just kind of, their immediate reaction is like, watch out.
Yeah.
And I also believe that people are inherently good. Like I've had really great experiences traveling where I've maybe been in an uncomfortable situation or in a bind, and somebody has came to my rescue, and I think it's because that's like my belief, right? That's our belief on that people will help if you make yourself open and approachable.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that you're talking about like, what was the biggest cultural difference that you noticed there? Just so if any of our listeners are traveling to China, just some advice that you'd give them about, traveling out there.
Say goodbye to your personal space. And everything is like 10 degrees warmer. Like if you ask for water, they're gonna give you warm water, not cold water. Warmer than lukewarm water.
Okay, that's good to know.
There's like everything's hotter. Like don't think that you'll have like air conditioning and whatnot. That's interesting, but learn to say hello and thank you. Honestly, as that's probably my biggest travel tip ever, is like learn to say hello and thank you, because
in the language
that will get you so far.
Okay, those are solid tips. Pat, what's your vacation?
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, and I don't know. I mean, I guess my favorite, if it's technically a vacation, it
Just
is
trip.
not. But I would say the time I spent in California.
Ooh, nice.
I mean, me and my nephew drove out there. It was just a great drive out there. We got stuck outside of Reno because of the mountains were impassable, the Donner Pass.
Oh.
We had to stay at this like casino that's straight out of a horror movie. But it was like nickel machines, get you free drinks, and breakfast was dirt cheap. It was like $5 for all you can eat buffet.
Ooh.
So we ended up staying there. It was cheaper. The rooms were $20 a night. So it was cheaper to stay there for 2 nights in a row than it was to buy tire chains to get through the mountain.
Wow.
Yeah, because when it's snowing, everyone like raises their prices on it. So we had 2 cars. We caravanned out there, so we would have to buy 2 of them. It was $160 for a pair of tire chains, and it was
to stay is $40 or $80.
Well, yeah, well, like after taxes, like $60.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were like, hell yeah, let's just hang out here. So we ended up getting out there. We ended up helping out on this organic farm for the summer and just like working and going to the rivers and the lakes and the state park like all the time, and then driving down to San Francisco like every other weekend and partying up in the city all weekend. I mean, it was probably the best time of my life for sure. It was amazing.
Cannoli probably loved it too.
Yeah, I had my dog out there with me, and he absolutely loved it. I mean, he's so sad thinking about that probably.
He probably dreams about it actually.
Yeah, I mean, because we were going, up in the mountains and the lakes and rivers, and there's no restrictions on dogs. They can, and he's like, that's his style, So he gets bored out here, even at the Shawnee Mission Dog Park, which is huge. I mean, he's like, okay, let's do something new.
Yeah, like.
So he kind of got spoiled, but yeah, I would say that was probably my favorite time. It was the culmination of, I guess, never having done anything like that, having the best of both worlds, like living out in the country there and going to the rivers and the lakes, but also going to San Fran like every weekend and partying in the city. And then just being with my nephew, who's like my best friend in the whole world, and he's like my brother, obviously. And then like experiencing that together, and then just the amount of time we got to be out there over, the course of a summer, basically. Yeah, unforgettable.
That's
That sounds
exciting.
awesome.
That's an exciting time.
What about you?
Do you have pictures from that when you were out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to see those.
Yeah, they're on my Facebook.
Album time. I honestly didn't have an answer to this really, but in the past few years, I've taken some dope trips.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the most memorable, a little cliche, but it would be Las Vegas, I think. And both of you guys know about my Las Vegas trip. I think we have a podcast episode dedicated to the Las Vegas trip, so
we can't talk about that one on the radio.
You can go back to our podcast and listen about that experience, but I think the reason why I would say that is one of like my favorite recent trips is because I got so much in those like 5 days. Like we did Vegas. Like when we did Vegas, we definitely did all the Vegas things. Like we went to shows, we like ate good food, we like stayed at a really nice place, we like went to the clubs, and then not only did we do that, but we went to the Grand Canyon. So we like took a road trip out there, and we went and saw the sunset and the sunrise for the Grand Canyon, and then we hiked it. And that was right after I was like just barely released to be able to do any physical activity after my Achilles surgery.
Yeah, that's right.
So like the first thing I did after I got released to work out was go hike the Grand Canyon. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
amazing.
So that was great. And that was with my close friends, Angela and Danny, and
Thank you.
Brad and Alex and Brooke were there too. It was great. But that was my trip recently. But again, if you want to hear the details on that, go listen to our older podcast about it.
Yeah.
This has been great. I'm just so happy that we're all together, that we're all able to talk about these things here in Kansas City, and let's keep traveling and expanding the cultural knowledge and bringing back all of this information for our listeners and viewers. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karla, for being here.
Yes.
We always look forward to your exponential growth. I mean, I feel like every time I see you, you're onto something bigger and better. So
Oh man,
best
thanks. I
wishes to you
appreciate
for
it.
that. And thanks for being on the show. Thanks again for everybody tuning in. Special shout out to Nicholas Segura and Nico Wiggins for
helping us with all of
collaborating
this stuff. Yeah, and collaborating.
on this production, and 1KC Radio as well, and Gennard over there. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. I'm Pat.
I'm Ruby.
Bye.
Bye. Love you, fam.
Hey, thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Stay tuned for our very special musical guest, Laura Noble, Kansas City's very own. Thanks again. Please enjoy her show.